Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel and another video from Vectra. Okay, so as you can see, got the Vectra up on ramps, ready to start work on it. So let's get this wheel off and make a start on getting these calipers changed over. Right, so that's the wheel off. As you can see, car's safely supported on axle stands, both sides. So the other one under there, just got that jack still under there. And then we'll crack on and try and sort these brakes out. Like I said, I took them, already stripped them down. So they're sitting there, all painted, ready to go on. So the paint didn't take very well on the calipers for some reason. I don't know why, but it'll do for now. See if we can get it through an MOT. So the first thing to do is to bolt this carrier on, and then we can get the caliper on, and then we can get the hydraulic line connected up. Right, at this point, you'd normally say that installation is a reversal of removal, but in my case I'm going to say removal is a reversal of installation, because as I said before, I've already taken everything off, all the calipers off, and all the caliper is up there, and the carrier. So this is the carrier, and this just fits in here like so. And hold that with one hand, so that goes there like that. There's two bolt holes there and there, and they take those two bolts. You can see one there and one there. So I'm going to get that fitted, and then we can see about getting the new caliper in place. Right, so that's the carrier in place. As you can see, got those two bolts in there, one at the bottom. Incidentally, they are a 10mm hex head fitting, if you need to know. So the next thing to do is to install the caliper. Now the caliper's already, whoops, tipped it upside down. Has already got nicely bleed nipple in it, and I've also purchased some new guide pins which I've put in there. Now those are star drivers, and that one's saying a 10mm. Don't know if that's right or not. 10mm it says on there, ½ inch. Yeah, don't know where I got that one. No, tell a lie, I'm talking complete rubbish. That's the adapter. So the actual size of that doesn't really say. T40 I think it says on there. If we can get that in focus, I think that's T40. Yeah, T40 it says. So yeah, whereas the other one, so the old guide pins were hex heads, as you can see. The reason I'm changing these is because they've been sticking a little bit, and you can see they're getting a little bit dirty. I think they're the original ones that were on the car, possibly. So yeah, I'm going to get those installed. I'm going to be using the existing brake pads. I'll show you those in a second, because there's nothing wrong with them. We're not changing the discs. I'm hoping they're going to clean up with a bit of driving. There's only surface rust that's on there, so they should be fine. So here are the pads. As you can see, they've got stacks of life left in them, hardly been used. You can tell by the clips they're relatively new. So this one just pushes into the caliper like so, and then this one sits in here in the carrier. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put some copper grease there and there on the contact surfaces, not a lot, and again on here and here where these two contact surfaces are. You can see there was already a little bit on there from when they were fitted originally. Yeah, just going to put those in just to stop corrosion and help the pads to move in and out a bit freely. So these are the new pins that go in, the new slide pins that go in the caliper. Need to just lubricate those with some special brake slider lubricating grease. It came with the, I think it came with the caliper actually. So yeah, just going to put a smear of that on each one, just to lubricate it a little bit, and stop it seizing up in the future, and then we can get the caliper installed. Right, that's the caliper installed. A little bit disappointed with the paint just peeling off of it, but we'll might do something else with that if we do end up doing a full restoration or a part restoration on this really rusty subframe and stuff in the future. But I just want to get it in for an MOT and see what it fails on, if anything. Hopefully it'll pass, and then we can make a decision from there what we're going to do with it. So last thing we install on the caliper before we do the hydraulics is this anti-rattle spring that sits behind there and in there. I think I've got that wrong actually. I think it's there and there, behind there. It needs 2 hands to put it in, to stretch it into those holes, but I'll show you when we've got that in. Right, so I've got the anti-rattle spring on. I've cut the caliper, well not cut the caliper, but cut the cable ties. I need to remove those actually, that I used to hold the old caliper up. As you can see, they've seen better days. Now what I've got to do is I've got to get that banjo bolt out of the top there. It's not leaking. I've put some WD-40 on it. I've just got it from an upturned bucket here because I don't want to put too much strain on this. Where are we on this cable, on this pipe, hydraulic hose? Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to use, where are we? I'm going to use this impact wrench to get that off. It's not really an impact wrench, it's got a little bit of impact, but because I don't really care about that banjo bolt or the caliper. It's just the hose we need to keep intact, because I've got a new bolt and 2 new copper washers. So basically what a banjo bolt is if you look at it very carefully, if we can get it in focus, there we are, somewhere, there we go, it's got a little hole in it, and what happens is the fluid comes through the pipe, through that little hole, and down into the caliper out the end there. And there's a copper washer goes on there on one side, and then that goes between the fitting on the pipe on the hydraulic hose, and then this one goes over the top, and that goes on the caliper side of the fitting, the pipe fitting, and that makes a nice seal. So I'm going to get that off and fit the new one. What I've also done, just a little tip, I don't know whether it does any good or not, but I've just put a piece of cling film over the top of the hydraulic reservoir, fluid reservoir, brake fluid reservoir, just to make a bit of a seal, and that should help prevent too much brake fluid loss. Just need to make sure it doesn't go down below the minimum, because we don't want to draw air in, because that'll make it a bit of a pain to bleed the brakes afterwards, which we've got to do. That'll be the next job. So anyway, I'm going to get this caliper, this hydraulic hose off the old caliper and fit it to the new one. So there we are, new caliper fitted, new banjo bolt in there. Don't think it's leaking, but we'll leave it for a little while and check. Should be fine. There's the old one that came out. As you can see, it's a bit rusty and knackered, so yeah, good job we changed those. We've got some new ones. It came out all right, came out of the caliper, that's where it came out of. Still got the copper sealing washer on there and the crusty old caliper. So next thing we need to do is to bleed these brakes, and I've got a new toy that I've not used yet, which I'm quite looking forward to trying out. So yeah, that's the next job to crack on with. So back out on the Vectra again. It is the next day. Made a little bit of a schoolboy error last night, in the rush to pack up and have some tea. I left these bleed nipples loose, and as you can see, we've lost quite a lot of fluid overnight. I've had a bit of a clear up this morning. Left the other side loose, but luckily that didn't drip too much fluid. It did drain a lot out of the brake fluid reservoir, obviously. However, it didn't drop right down empty, so there was still some fluid in it. So hopefully we haven't drawn any air into the system, otherwise that would mean bleeding the back brakes as well. This funny contraption on here, I'm going to explain now. So yesterday I mentioned I've got a new toy to play with, and this is it. It's a pressure brake bleeder. So basically, what I just showed you on the cap in the previous clip, this this fitting fits onto there, pushes on the top. You pump this up with this handle here to around about, well, no more than 10 psi. I'm probably going to try about, I don't know, 8 to start with. That's the operating pressure of this device, but also if you pump it up too hard and put too much pressure through the brake system, you risk blowing the seals in pistons and I think the ABS system, ABS pump and reservoir distribution manifold. So yeah, that's not a good thing. So basically you fill this up with some brake fluid. I've got a bit in the bottom here. You don't need to fill it right up, just enough to cover the end of this tube, which is touching the bottom of the container. Anyway, you pump this up to a pressure with this end attached, obviously, and then you just crack the bleed nipples open and the fluid flows out. You can watch for air bubbles, and when the air bubbles stop, you know you've bled it properly. Now what I've also done is I've purchased I don't know what it was, about 1 metre of silicone tube, made a little adapter there with a clip that we can get it to clamp onto the brake caliper nipple. And also I've used this, what was a sweetener jar, and quite conveniently it's got nice little holes in the end there. So what I've done is I've just put a large one and poked the tube through there, so that way we can catch all the fluid, and if that falls over, hopefully we won't spill too much. So I'm going to push that tube down so it's in the bottom of the thing. I mean, with the pressurised system we shouldn't get a problem, but what you want to make sure is when you stop bleeding that you don't get air bubbles sucked back up the tube. So if you've got fluid in there, it's going to suck fluid up, but that shouldn't be a problem because the whole system will be pressurised. So yeah, I'm going to get this connected up and hopefully it'll work. Okay, as you can see, got the connector fitted, got the device here pumped up to what that is, about 9 psi. It's been like that for a minute or two now, so it is holding pressure, which is good. That's another thing, you're also checking for leaks in the system really here, because if that wasn't holding pressure, you'd obviously have a leak. I've used other brake bleeding kits that run off a spare tyre, and I've had trouble with it leaking around this cap here, not sealing properly. But this appears to be doing the job, so that's good. I've got my little pipe connected up here, as you can see, into my jar, which is here. Let's put that back there so we can perhaps see what's going on easier. There we go. So I'm just going to crack this off now. Just worth mentioning, if you've dismantled the whole braking system, well, even only part of it, there is a sequence that you need to carry out in bleeding them. So you need to do the furthest one away from the brake cylinder, or the brake master cylinder reservoir first, which obviously is the rear one up there, but obviously we haven't dismantled that, so that should be fine. Then I think it's the other rear one, then this front one, then the other front one, which is closest. So I'm just going to do this one, leave the backs for now. We are going to be stripping the back brakes down at some point to clean them, and I have got new calipers to put on there at some point, but we'll see what we need to do, see how this pans out. So just going to crack this bleed nipple off now, and hopefully we'll see the fluid. There it goes. A few little bubbles in there, you can see, hopefully. Yeah, there. So we might have lost all the pressure in the system. Obviously you have to keep pumping that up again, but you can see the principle. It's pumped fluid down, we've got fluid in the jar, and I guess we've got a big air bubble there if we've had fluid through. So I'm going to tighten this up again, check the pressure. Let's just nip that up. Oh, let's get up and go and have a look at this machine again. No, we've still got quite a bit of pressure. Where are we? There. You can see that hasn't dropped at all, really. So yeah, we'll carry on with this procedure, and I'll cut back in when it's done. Right guys, so that took a little bit longer than expected on the other brake caliper. I'm guessing it's because obviously the calipers are new and empty, so that's why it took a bit of time getting the air out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and do this one sort of live for you, so you can see what I was doing was opening the bleed nipple, letting load through, seemed to be clear, closing it again, leaving it for a minute or two, trying again, getting more air bubbles. So I kept repeating that sequence until I actually got rid of all the air bubbles. So let's crack this one off and see what we get here. So hopefully you can see the fluid flowing through. There doesn't seem to be too many air bubbles in this, on this side, probably because it was running fluid through it all night, because the bleed nipple was open, so it's probably filled this caliper right up with fluid. So we'll leave that for now. Let's shut that off for a minute or two. Right, it's been about a minute. Let's give it another go. It's probably worth saying that I do keep checking the fluid level in the reservoir and in the pressure bleeder, and checking the pressure. I've only had to top it up once, and I've done the other cylinder, the other brake caliper. So let's crack this off again, see what happens. This is coming through very clear. I mean, you're looking here for any bubbles, and we're not really getting any, which is good. It looks like it's coming through very slowly, but it's coming through quicker because it's running down the edge of the tube. So if you had bubbles in it, you'd be able to see the speed. In fact, if I lift that up, you can see the bubbles that are in the tube. So that's how fast we're pushing fluid through. Hope you can see that in the camera. Right, I'm going to shut it off again. Leave it for another minute or so. Right, I think we'll make this the final one on this, as long as we don't get any air in it. As you can see, the fluid's now drained out of the pipe a little bit into the jar. So let's crack it once more. If we don't get any air, we'll call that job done. Well, they look like there might have been a little bit that time. I don't know if you saw those bubbles pop out. As you can see, it looks like it's sucking fluid back in, but it isn't. It's actually the tube emptying. Let's give it another quick go. Did seem to be a few bubbles there, didn't there? Let's open that a little bit further. See a few bubbles trapped in the tube. Let's just give that a little squeeze to get those moving out. I can see lower down. Oh, there's a couple more bubbles just then. Whoops, sorry, nearly knocked the camera over. A little tiny one there. So there is some bubbles coming out. Let's shut this off and leave it a few minutes again. Right, let's give it another go. Make sure we're not getting any air on that tube. So there's a few little bubbles again. Maybe we are getting some through now. I'm just going to keep repeating this process until we're clear of bubbles, and I'm sure there's nothing else coming through. Okay, I'm happy enough with that now. No more air coming out of it, so I've took the spanner and the pipe off and put the little protective dust cap over the front, or over the top rather. So the next thing to do with this tool is you need to depressurise it. So I did pump it up again, so it's still sitting about 9 bar. Sorry, 9 psi, 9 bar. That'll be blowing the whole thing apart. So yeah, first thing to do is there's this little valve on the side here, and we just undo that, and that should, there we go, release the pressure. There's a little valve up here. Get all the way back down to 0. There we go, no pressure in there, so we'll tighten that up again. Should be able to safely disconnect this now. Like that. Let's move him out of the way. Oh dear. And then we just need to replace the original cap. Now it's quite handy because this kit came with a little spanner that helps you get that off. That's that off. That's somewhere so it doesn't drip brake fluid all over the. And I'm just looking in the cylinder there. It's up to the maximum level. So it looks good. Let's put the original cap on. I don't think my idea with the cling film helped because it did actually drip out overnight as we saw earlier. So that's that back on nice and tight. A little bit of brake fluid got on there. Wipe that off. Right, now we'll check the brake pedal pressure and hopefully it's all good. Right, so we're in the car now. I just pressed the brake pedal a couple of times down there and it feels okay now. It was a couple of times I had to pump it because obviously the brake pads were out, so I pumped it a couple of times. It feels pretty good. Yeah, I'm happy with that. So it's another job done now. It's time to look at the back brakes. So guys, as you can see, I've got this this wheel off. Release the handbrake. That noise is a bit of rust on the discs and the pad. Release the handbrake and put it back on again, and it locked the wheel nicely. This was the side that said it was slightly less efficient than the other side. I was going to take the caliper off, take the disc off, give it a good clean out inside, but the caliper, I don't know if we can see in there, yeah, there, that obviously looks a bit crusty, that fit in there, and it hasn't got a flexible pipe into the cylinder, so I can't actually, into the caliper, so I can't actually take the caliper off and move it out of the way. I'm going to have to disconnect this fixed pipe here, which looks like it's going to break and be a right ball ache. Now I have got new calipers to put on, but I don't really want to do that until I've got the MOT done, just to see what else it might fail on. Now my concern about this, and not going too far with it at the minute until we've done an MOT, is stuff like that. That worries me a bit. That's quite crusty there. Might need a bit of welding done on it, which then means taking the side skirts off, etc, etc. So yeah, I'm going to get it in for an MOT, see what happens. If they pass it, or just pass it with the visories and not corrosion stuff, then we'll stick all the new calipers on the back and we'll attend to this. But I think that's going to need some welding on there. There are some other bits that I'm a bit concerned about. So it's bits like this. It's starting to separate a little bit there, and again along here. It was mentioned on an MOT. It wasn't actually put down as an advisory, but the mechanic mentioned it to me. It's a little bit worse up there actually, if we can get up there. So where are we there? And I just sort of brushed it off and undersealed it, and it hasn't been mentioned again since. But so it's been standing about 4 years now, which doesn't do any car any good, and I'm just concerned that that might fail on that now, so it might even need even more welding. So guys, I think we're going to leave it there for this one. It is the 30th of April 2023 today. I've got another week till the MOT, so I think the MOT for this one is booked on the 11th of April, and the Astra is on the 10th. So yeah, I think now is the time we just leave it as it is. I'll get it down off the ramps, and we'll see what happens at the MOT and see how much further we need to go with this. I am going to save the vehicle. I think it's worth it. They're starting to creep up in value now a little bit. They're getting a bit rarer. You don't see many of them about. I did do some welding many years ago. I've got a welder, MIG welder and stuff, so I just need to dust that off, get it recommissioned, get some plate, and practice again and see if I can get this sorted if it needs it. Hopefully it won't, but I'm not holding out a lot of hope. Anyway guys, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. It will help grow the channel if you just give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down, even if you didn't like it. But yeah, whatever, it does help, and I would like to grow the channel this year a bit. So yeah, maybe we'll be coming back and doing some welding under here. See you in the next one, guys.